It's been a long time. June 8th here. The whole month of May was our move and getting settled here in Eilat. That's why, let's see, would you call this a studio? Our decorations look a little different. Today, I feel like I wanted to go back to a little more study about Nashamah because I personally feel like it's a very crucial idea about how we're put together. So my question on my paper here, why humans are not animals?
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, Frank, in the 3rd grade,
Okay.
we were told by the teacher, and she was not joking, that humans are animals. That was only half right. And it was a shock to my little mind to think that I was not human, because that's the way it came across,
Mm-hmm.
that I was an animal, not a human. Okay, so we've talked about this before, but it's important for mankind to know why he is at the top of the animal kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
as the king of the kingdom, and how he is different than the animals that are under his care.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to add here, Adam was told to name the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So God was giving him wisdom as to how each animal functioned and why it was made the way it was, so that he could name them, because the name implies what that animal is.
Right.
So let me also, before we get into the differentiation between a breath of life and a living being, God made physical things, and when he did that, he created a dualism. In other words, heaven as opposed to earth,
Mm-hmm.
God as opposed to the creatures he
Mm-hmm.
made,
Mm-hmm.
water as opposed to dry land.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes on, man, woman. It's all divided into, and he had a purpose for this.
Yeah.
And part of the purpose was so we could be aware of things that are different and the same.
Right. Yeah. And that's true.
Because he was going to create this man that could acknowledge differences. He was aware of differences.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons God wanted to do that, Frank, was because he had made this beautiful universe or physical realm
Mm-hmm.
with beautiful mountains,
Mm-hmm.
lovely waterfalls, all the stuff we enjoy in our world,
Mm-hmm.
and many more maybe. The stars. But how could anyone know that this was wonderful? Only God could, because he was other than these things.
Right.
So to make another differentiation, he said, we'll make man in our image. In other words, he will be able to appreciate these things.
Right.
So now he's got someone that can enjoy it with him and actually make a difference, share in it, okay?
The animal can't appreciate it the way man does.
No, so...
But I guess among the Bible people, it was interesting that dogs came to church.
God was what?
Dogs came to church.
Oh, yes, dogs came to church. Yeah, sometimes it made a little bit of a problem. So, how do we know there's a difference between man and creatures?
Right,
Okay,
right. That's
so
a big question. Yeah.
in Genesis 2:7 it said, Yah, God, formed man from the dust of the earth. He blew into his nostrils, and here's the word, the breath of life, Nishmat Haim, and man became a Nefesh Hayah. Or maybe it's High. I can't remember now. I don't have the Hebrew in front of me. Hayah. Okay. Two words in this verse are Nashamat High and Nefesh Hayah. And they're translated, some translate Nishmat High as breath of life. And Nefesh is, well, they consistently do creature or soul for that one. Most of the time later on they use the word soul.
Okay.
So I would translate the first as living human and the second one as living creature.
Okay.
Now I'll show you why man was both.
Okay.
When you have a lion, you could say a lion creature or a lion. When you have a human, you could say a human creature. Because Chai or Hayah, Haim, all of those words are to be words and they mean life, living, existence. So to see this difference, we'll go back to Genesis 1:25. God made wild beasts of every kind and the cattle of every kind and all kinds of creeping things on the earth, and God saw it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. They shall rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the cattle, the whole earth, and all creeping things that creep on the earth. Oh, I did not put the verse in that's important. The one that says how he made these creatures. He just spoke to the ground and they came out.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he called them Nefesh Hai.
Okay. So the same Hebrew is used there.
All the creatures are called Nefesh Hai.
Okay.
So that's in the verse that precedes God made the wild beasts. Okay. Now, when it came to man, he said God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them.
It's interesting that, according to the record in Genesis, that the creation of man followed the creation of the animals.
Right. And so it isn't until Genesis 2:7 that you find out the detail of how he created it in his image. Now, the greatest part of this image, okay, it's this Nefesh Kai. How does it make it different? How does it make us not an animal? The animals do not choose; they are programmed.
Right. Exactly what to do.
Anything moving, a cat's going to pounce on it. I mean, that is just automatic.
And the cats automatically lick themselves.
And everything's automatic with these animals. There's a response to everything is automatic. They're programmed.
When they're trained, they sort of...
Well, what you're doing, you're taking what you know about that animal and you're adding to his natural reflexes.
Right, because he gets rewarded.
He gets rewarded for doing this trick. So now he'll do that trick to get this. And all animals want comfort.
Yeah.
That's a given. They say every...
In a way, that's true of children. If we reward them, sometimes they behave better.
Well, that's right, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So we are given this Nefesh, Nashamah. The difference is we are going to become like God. We're going to be made into his image. And when it says, let us, he's maybe talking to angels because they're heavenly thinking people, persons, or whatever you call creatures. And he might be speaking to the neshama that's going to be in Adam.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are going to make you into my image.
Hmm.
Because this nefesh, like I was telling you the other day, I was thinking about it, and not the nefesh, sorry, neshama. He's got a program. It's like going into a computer shop. And you got all these computers made by the same company, and they're all the same. But when the buyer buys one, he's going to put the programs on it that he wants to do what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same way. When God puts a neshama into a new little human that's being formed, the heritage of that human is going to form what that human wants and what he can do. In other words, he's made to be able to do certain things that he's gifted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the neshama is going to help him know how, when, where, and how to please God with these gifts that he's given.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the little human is not programmed by his parents, if the parents don't have the gift to know what this child is given to do,
Mm-hmm.
We see instances of this, like Shmuel.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that she needed to give that child to God,
To God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
that he would fulfill a certain purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And Manoah and his
And
wife,
to them, they know it as Samuel, yeah.
and then they knew it was Samson was going to deliver them from the Philistines. They didn't.
Samson? Samuel.
This is a different one.
Oh, okay.
But there's different instances in the Bible that talk about people before they're born,
Yeah.
that they're going to fulfill a certain
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Those parents are
Does that
given,
mean they're pre-programmed, did you say? Or?
no, they're not. Well, like I'm saying, that this neshama is given to it, but it's blank. Okay, it's ready to be programmed.
But if they had a purpose before they were born, it seems like that's like a program, but maybe not.
The nefesh, our body, and what we inherit from our ancestors, gives us a certain shape that the neshama is coming into.
Yeah, but when Samson and Samuel, they sensed ahead of time what they were going to do.
The parents did.
Yeah, they didn't train them.
And their parents were told how to treat the child. Okay, I'm getting to something.
Okay.
So every child born in a family, if the parents know God and are aligned with God, they're going to teach them the Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is the morals that God gave Moses.
Certainly
That will program the neshama to follow God.
Certainly the Noahide laws for sure.
Yeah, certainly.
I
just an outer
I just
frame.
wanted to point out, be sure people know that this in Genesis 2:7, Neshama is a form of neshama. Okay, if they know that, I think they.
Yeah, nishma is because you say nishma haim. That's a compounded noun.
Okay.
When you compound the noun, the shape of the noun,
Right.
neshama is changed for that.
Just so people know, we're talking about the same thing. You know?
When you say nishma haim and neshama, you're talking about the same thing. Okay. So the parents then are helping that child know right from wrong. Because why? The neshama is the chooses. It helps us choose.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us this is the best choice for you. This is going to be giving you trouble if you go down this road. Why? Because there's a gift God gave to man. Without programming man like he does the animals, he gave us a free will.
Yeah, we have the choice.
We have choice.
And that's in contrast to animals.
That's one of the biggest contrasts, is that we have this free will.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to depart a little bit from this. We'll come back to this another time, but I want to say something that's very important for us in this world today.
Okay.
If anybody crosses or wants to take away your right to choose,
Oh, yeah.
they are trying to take the gift of God from you
And trying to control you.
and try to control, because they will want to be replacing God in your life.
Mm.
Now, the right to choose is governed by the Nashamah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if a child or parents are not good people, they will not, the child will not get a good program into their neshama. So you have children that are taught to steal because that's a value that's honored. I won't say which group of people do that. There are more than one probably that actually think it's okay to steal, and they teach their children to steal. So if you meet up with a person from that group of people, you automatically know that you could be stolen from.
But I think what you're saying too, what's important is that when God made man different than animal with free choice, he knew that man might make the wrong choice.
Exactly.
He was taking a chance.
God was taking a chance. That's right. But he still wants to have his kingdom come out the way it should be.
Right.
Okay.
He wants people to choose him.
So what we have in the world at the present, because it hasn't all become we haven't all become slaves to a government yet. It's on the way. It's been on the way for a while. In fact, every government has done this to some degree. Israel was taken to freedom, and they have come the closest to not making slaves out of their people.
Well, I think when America was founded, that a lot of the principles were people should have freedom.
That was the basis of it, because they were going to be the new Israel.
Right.
Okay, so that's only two nations. And Rabbi Sachs, of beloved memory now, stressed this a lot. He says there's only two nations that have this principle of whatever he was teaching.
And someone just said recently that America has treated the Jews better than, or Israel better than any other country.
Because they recognize freedom. Okay, now.
They recognize God too.
So any government entity or any person in the government that takes your right away to choose where you will live, how you will live, how you will speak, there's certain things.
What you teach your children?
Yeah, as long as your freedom doesn't impinge on the freedom of others, and that's the basis for the Ten Commandments. If we follow the Ten Commandments or the Noahide laws, which are basically the same thing.
Someone said recently, without the Ten Commandments, it's like driving down the road and saying, well, I can just drive whatever speed I think is okay.
Yeah. Or whichever side of the road you can be on.
Oh, dear. You're more dangerous.
And so there are these, that's the rules and teachings God gave so that mankind would not destroy itself.
I was going to say, too, that when a parent teaches a child, the parent teaches what he knows is right and wrong.
Right.
And so it's a matter of conscience again.
That's right. So the conscience is set by what he's taught as a 2-year-old. And boy, that's when you got to get him. Oh, that's when you got to get him. Yeah.
Before the Terrible Twos. During the Terrible Twos.
We watched the Terrible Twos yesterday. It was so much fun. So what do we have on the earth now at the moment? There is a group that's called the One World Forum, something like that. And they're trying to bring everything under them. And I don't know how they've got it organized, but they've got certain ideas and ideals and da-da-da. And wokeism plays into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you don't stand up and say, I'm not going there, you're going to lose your freedom. And we might lose it anyway, but we've got to trust that God is going to pull us out of this. It says in many of the prophets that God will come and set the prisoners free.
Yeah.
Freedom is the first thing that is important.
Yeah.
Secondly, is if a child has been programmed wrong, is to help him learn what's good for his survival, and that he has the freedom to choose.
Yeah, some people learn that at an older age. They go through life struggling, but then they suddenly realize.
They come out of what they were taught and know what the truth, yes.
As far as freedom, God freed Israel from Egyptian slavery. And he knew that they might make wrong choices along the way. They did.
Lo and behold. So I think that that's one of the major things that we want to see is people choosing, being able to choose. And whenever someone is espousing some idea and it's going to take away somebody's freedom, I think of they want this one world system is everything's under that, and there won't be any borders. You can go from one place to the other. I don't know how they'll call one country another country actually after a while. I suppose they'll divvy it up the way they want, call it regions, but nobody will have any say over what their region does. That's different from what the program is.
Yeah, because really each country has its own culture and uniqueness.
Yeah, see, there's differentiation. That's choice. And the choice is between a country and another country is what kind of terrain do they have? What kind of climate do they have?
Yeah. What kind of food do they grow?
You can't make the climate the same for everybody.
No.
And everybody's food is not going to be the same. But I get the impression that this one world system thinks they know it all. And they can govern this and tell everybody what they're doing, where they want them and what they want them to be doing. I believe that there's two choices. There's always two choices. There's God's government, which we haven't gotten to. This is why I wanted to go talk about this Nashamah again, because the Nashamah that God put in us is a special breath from Him. And it's a program that He's designed so that we could hear Him and make choices. But we could hear Him for what's good for us individually and choose that particular way. So I get to know what I'm gifted to do. And then, as it says in Ecclesiastes, the best thing for man is to know, is to be able to do his work and enjoy it. That is number one. It is not making a lot of money. And you have a happy world when people are doing, they don't feel like it's drudgery to go to work. Okay? That begins to form a society that is happy, that are fruitful and productive. They're making God's world better. And they're doing this because they've learned how to listen to God. So when we pray that we want to make God our king, that's more important than say, God, give us a Messiah, which means give us a king that you appointed. Because he's going to do that in his time, but he's got to get us all on the same page. And the only way he can do it is through this Nashamah.
That's a big job.
That's his job. I don't have to do that.
But we still have to choose.
But we have to choose. But we have to learn what it means to choose. Why are we choosing what we're choosing? And we have to choose to listen to the Nashamah because God can speak to us. And if we obey the Nashamah that God speaks to us through, then we will be making God king.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's king, there's freedom.
Yeah.
If there's not freedom, then God isn't king.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he wanted for man. And I think that's the most important thing I wanted to say for today.
Okay.
And I don't know how much we'll go into this, or there's a lot of things that can be said.
Yeah, we can develop it more probably.
Yeah, so anyway, it was good to be with you again. We are enjoying our life here in Eilat.
Mm-hmm. A lot. We enjoy it a lot.
We enjoy it a lot. Okay, we'll see you maybe next week. We don't know for
I
sure.
don't know.
We're not pinning ourselves down.
No, you'll find out.
Okay, God bless.